Welcome, everybody. Happy springtime. I'm sure we're all glad spring's here now. And the winter is just about ended, and we can finally get out of the house, and especially after this pandemic. Everybody wants to get out of the house, I'm sure. Just a few things. Our sign isn't out there. I don't know if anybody noticed, but we're getting our sign repainted at the Hill School. They're being very nice. They're doing it for free, so that's what we like. We like free things. So when it goes back up, it's going to look much brighter and much better. So that's where the sign is. I'm sure everybody noticed it was missing when they came in, right? I'm working on negatives up there. I'm finding a lot of good pictures in these negatives. They were sitting up in our garage for probably 15, 20 years since we moved here. And I never got to them, but now I'm getting to them. And I am finding some fabulous pictures. Pictures around this town of businesses and things that just I've never seen before. So I'm really having fun going through them. So I'm weeding some out. I'm keeping the good ones. We got them from Harrow Camera way back. I remember lugging all that stuff down the steps because they were all up on the third floor of his building. So those are a few things I tell you about. I did find a lot on Kiwi. If anybody knows anybody that worked at Kiwi in the 60s, I just came across pictures galore of the inside of Kiwi with all the machinery, all the processing, and people all over the place. So if anybody knows anybody that worked there in the 60s, I want to talk to them and show them these negatives because there's tons of people.
In the 60s, it was, I think I started there in the 70 or 71, but I would probably recognize some of the people on the floor.
These are great pictures, they really are.
Okay.
And the negatives are about that thick.
Wow.
A lot of pictures.
Was it when they were in High Street?
It was when they were over here on High Street, yes, before they went to Douglasville. Okay, let me introduce our speaker, Luann Zambanini.
Yes.
Did I get it?
Yes.
Wow. I was worried about that. She is going to tell us about what it was like to be a milkman back in the early days when the milkman delivered the milk to you, and the eggs, and the butter. And you had that insulated box on your step. I remember it. I guess most people do. We're that age. So without any further ado, I'm turning you over to Luann.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to put my glasses on and sort of read through this because if I don't, I'll go like way in left field and we'll be here till 9:30. I can talk, that's my problem. So like he said, my name is Luann Zambanini. It actually was Riegner before I was married, so I'm really Pennsylvania Dutch. I'm not any Italian. And my dad was Joe Riegner. He was the milkman. He actually did deliver milk in Pottstown. So I don't know if any of you had Carver's Dairy, which turned into St. Lawrence, but maybe he was your milkman. Maybe we'll figure that out along the way. And actually, I'm really glad I'm here tonight. I'm actually lucky I lived through my childhood because when I was a little girl, and you remember when you had all the milk in the glass milk bottles, and we washed them out. Some people didn't, but we washed them out, and my mom would say, Luann, would you put these in the milk box? Sure. So I'm walking from the kitchen to the living room because the milk box is on the front porch. And you know, I noticed when they hit each other, they made a pretty cool noise. And in my little mind, I said, you know, if you hit them harder, I bet that would really make a cool noise. Yeah. You get where I'm going. So I'm walking through the living room going, and yeah, there was glass everywhere. I think the noise was cool. I don't remember it because I think I had a heart attack at the time going, my mom's going to kill me. But anyway, so I really am glad I'm here tonight. She did spare me. She let me live. After that, I never did that again to any milk bottles. And she could trust me putting them out. I really do feel bad now. That must have been horrible to clean up. But I was too little to clean it up, thank heavens. Anyway, I'll tell you a little bit about the history here. Years ago, I was the president of the Boyertown Area Historical Society. I'm still very active. I'm the treasurer now. But I had a speaker not show. And you gentlemen that plan it, you know how that is when a speaker doesn't show. So, you know, you do a little tap dance, you bring something in to talk about, and I thought, this is not going to happen to me again. I am going to plan something. So I thought, what can I plan? So I thought, well, I could do something. I could do a backup here. So I was thinking, you know, we had a butcher, we had a baker. We didn't have a candlestick maker. I don't know if any of you did. But we had a chip man where I lived. But of course, the most important to me was the milkman. Do any of these exist today that go door to door, and why don't they? Because the women are working. There are mini marts everywhere to get your milk. And stores are open on Sunday, because way back in the 60s and 70s, stores weren't open on a Sunday. So that kind of is what really ended the profession. I don't know that there's any milkman anymore. I mean, maybe out west, I don't know. But anyway, so we're going to talk about a milkman tonight. In the dictionary, the word milkman is listed as a man who sells or delivers milk to customers. Well, to me, the word milkman means my dad. So my dad, like I said, was Joe Regner. He was a milkman for my entire childhood. He worked for Carver's Dairy. He started there just after I was born and continued working there until I was out of high school. He had enjoyed his job very much. Since this is a historical society, I should try to bring some history into it. So let me give you a little history about Carver's Dairy. Carver's Dairy was started by Newton Carver, the son of George Carver, who was a baker in Boyertown. Newton started the business in 1919. He started with raw milk and delivered his product by horse and buggy. Newton had one employee, and the milk was bottled by hand. 10 to 12-hour workdays were not uncommon for them. The horse-drawn delivery is depicted on the side of the State Theater in Boyertown. If you ever get into Boyertown, the side of the State Theater, I love that. That's so cool. It's the milkman when he had the horse-drawn carriage. In the Pottstown Mercury, there was an article in October of 1935, and it tells the story of the horse that Newton used to deliver. For 15 years, he used the same horse. The horse's name was Colonel. He was retired, and after that, he would be found roaming at the pastures lands of Edwin Eschbach, a farm near New Berlinville. The Colonel was a white horse known by many children and many people. The horse never missed a day of work in 15 years. Never because of illness, never because of it oversleeping or anything. They estimated that he probably walked about 50,000 miles. And it was said that no horse could replace the Colonel. The Colonel knew the stops. And he would stop at this house, and if there was somebody out and the delivery man started talking, could only stay so long because the horse would just start going without him. But the horse knew every stop. And he was replaced by a truck. In August of 1959, Carver's Dairy became a modern business, serving 6 communities, and somewhere around that time is when my dad joined the picture in Carver's Dairy. What was life like for him as a milkman? Looking back now as an adult, I can really appreciate the physical labor that he did in all kinds of weather. Now I understand that when it snows, when it was really coming down hard, and I was thrilled because we weren't going to have any school, and I was thrilled because my mom was going to make donuts. I realized she did that because it would make her concentrate so she didn't have to worry about my dad out on the road all day. And I feel bad now. I'd be like, yes, it's going to snow. And she's thinking, oh, good Lord, it's going to snow. I recall that my dad would get up about 1 o'clock in the morning, eat some breakfast, and then he would be off. He'd drive to Boyertown to the dairy. We lived in Bally, by the way, so he would drive to Boyertown like 10 minutes, pick up his load. He worked for Carver's Dairy, which was located on South Chestnut Street in Boyertown. He would pick up his load, including he would have to carry many crates of milk to the truck. If the weather was warm, you had to ice it. He never had a refrigerated truck. So he would have to, after he loaded it, he would have to back up to the big, those big ice making machines like you find in hotels and stuff. They were huge. Just scoop it on, cover the whole truck, and then he would cover all the milk in the truck, and then he would put an insulated blanket on so it would keep it nice and cold. In the winter, though, you didn't quite have to do that. I remember in the winter, his hands would get so cracked open from the cold. You know how it is when you're working out in the cold all the time. After securing his load of milk, the regular milk, the skim milk, the chocolate milk, the buttermilk, plus the butter and the eggs and the orange juice and all kinds of other things that they had, things like whipping cream and heavy cream, he'd be off and make his deliveries. I should add that, you know, when your things are expired, like when the creams would be expired, he didn't sell that many, but, you know, if some lady wanted to bake, they would put a note out in the milk box, so he had to have some. So when the creams were expired, sometimes he would bring them home, and because hated to throw it out, but it still was good that day. So he would bring it home, and we would make homemade ice cream. And I still have the ice cream maker in my basement. I've made it, not a lot, but I've made it several times. And every time we start that thing up, that motor, the smell of it takes me back to when I was a little girl in the basement with my dad making the ice cream. Just one of those, you know, weird memories like that. Okay, back to my story. With a full truck of supplies, he would drive to his designated route. And his designated route was the Pottstown area. He would deliver to trailer parks, row houses, apartments, fancy buildings, not so fancy houses, not so fancy houses, and even a little mom and pop grocery store that was in Little Ole. He would come through Pine Forge, and there's a little grocery store that was Little Ole. It was called Hefner's Market. You remember that? Yeah. It's a house now, but every time I go by it, I go back to it was Hefner's store in Little Ole. It's hard to picture it being a house after it was a store, but they do all that. He would stop the truck in front of one house and then another. He would walk up the steps, fill the milk box with whatever the customer had ordered. He had a recording book that stated the customer's name, address, and what they expected for each delivery. He didn't often have to look at the book because he was doing this job for so many years. He just knew what everybody's order was. He stopped at the houses 3 times a week. So you were either a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday customer. So what happens when Christmas falls on a Wednesday? Well, then he would always take one of my cousins or one of our friends' high school boys, because they were strong and could help him. He would take them along with him, and they would have to do a double delivery. So you would do your Tuesday and your Wednesday delivery on Tuesday. So you could then be totally exhausted and enjoy Christmas Day the next day. But that's what you had to do. My dad knew all of his customers. He knew some of the customers by their face, but mainly he knew them by their houses, the name he could associate with the houses. Some he knew by the dogs. Some were friendly dogs. Some were mean dogs. Only once did he really get bitten by a dog. He got a lot of those little ankle nippers, you know. I got 3 of those dogs at home. But one time he got a big bite on the shoulder, and you're thinking, what? Well, he was reaching down to put the milk in as the dog went. It didn't take any stitches or anything, and it was all cool, but it did happen. Now, when I went with him in the summer, and I would go, you know, like once or twice a summer, heaven forbid I couldn't go more than that, I'd be too tired. Anyway, he'd say to me, okay, now go in, the milk box is such and such. Now they have a dog, but either the lady's out or the dog is in. Guess what? Dog was out, the lady was in. So I put the milk in, I'm walking back and I see this dog, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh. And of course I screamed, and it's like 3 o'clock a.m. for 4 o'clock a.m. And I screamed bloody murder. And luckily I had on tight shorts, and they were green jean shorts. I still remember them. And the dog got me here, but luckily the pants had enough material there, and I didn't get it. But to this day, I'm a little leery about German Shepherds. That's like kind of like the dog I'm most afraid of. But anyway, Boyertown had a high school teacher, Mr. Musser. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. He was there for years, retired now. He had this thing about bug collections. He needed the kids to do a bug collection during the summer. I didn't have him, thank heavens. But oftentimes, different people would call my dad. The kids would call my dad and say, hey, can you get me a roach? Oh, yeah, no problem. I got to dump out the milk boxes different places before I put the milk in, and I'll get you one, not a problem. So anyway, I really wonder how many of the roaches in all those collections my dad got for these kids. But anyway. Okay, after making all the necessary deliveries, Dad would have to make some trips back to the house to pick up the money that they owed. Saturdays was his biggest collection day, because most of the people were there at home on Saturdays. He would get finished delivering his milk about 11 o'clock, and that would take him several hours to make the collections. But collections were part of the job. You have to get the money for everything that you sell. I remember as a child hearing him tell my mom someone had given him a rubber check. He went on saying he couldn't believe it had bounced. My little mind thought, how cool is that? I want to see that. But that really wasn't what he meant, but you know. I had some weird things as a child, didn't I? Anyway, after making the deliveries and the collections necessary for the day, my dad would head home. He would get back to Boyertown, unload the truck, sweep it out, and park it until he did it again tomorrow. He'd finish up his paperwork that he had to do in the office, and then he would head home. He would generally come home right around noon, except on Saturdays. Then he wouldn't get home till like 2 or 3 because of all those collections. Now remember, he got up at 1. Saturdays was a very long day for him. When he got home, he would go to bed for his afternoon nap. For years, he did a split sleep. As an adult, I don't know how he did that. I don't know how he did it. My mom would wake him about 5 o'clock for supper, and then in the evening, my dad would sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and his milk book and do the paperwork. He had to add on, you know, if he got 2 quarts of milk today, add that on. They had to keep their own bookkeeping system. So he would, in his mind, go through each customer as he did the calculations, page by page. He did all this in his head, so he was really good with that math stuff, which we all were before they gave us like cell phones with calculators on, or I had a job with a calculator all day. But he did really good with that. He would, in his mind, rewalk the steps that he had done the day, and every once in a while we would hear him say, "Oh, I forgot that guy today." Okay, you know, it happens. What can you do? There were folks who wanted you to collect the money, as I talked about. Then there were the folks who would want to pay by the month. They would want a monthly bill. He would say you have to write up a slip form. I would now call it an invoice, but he called it a slip. So you'd write their name and how much they owed. Others wanted details, that you got 2 dozen of eggs and 7 quarts of milk and all that kind of good stuff. He would let me do that. I loved that. That's how I decided I wanted to go into the business aspect of things. Of course, my goal was to work at Carver's Dairy. You knew that was coming, right? And I actually did get to do that one day. There was a girl that was in the office every Saturday, so if somebody wanted to come in and buy milk, pay their bill, or whatever, she was there. And there was a substitute. And the one day regular girl, and the substitute couldn't make it. So my dad's boss, by then I was like 16, my dad's boss asked me if I wanted to do it. And it was like, this will fulfill my childhood dream. So it was funny because I remember going in and him showing me stuff, and he's like, well, you know where all the milk is and all the difference, so I don't have to explain that to you. This is easy. So I did do for one day. They never needed me again. Or maybe, you know what, now I'm thinking, maybe I didn't do a good job. No, I think I was fine on that. But it was really cool that I could fulfill what I wanted to do. Now I want to share with you a few funnies from my dad's job. When a customer didn't want the usual order, he would put a note in the milk box. Over the years, I know my dad had read thousands and thousands of notes for orders. I had no idea he saved the best of the best. I found them in my dad's file cabinet after he had passed away in 1985. I went through them and I really laughed. It took me back to my childhood again when my dad was a milkman, and I would like to share this with you. You could put them on any kind of paper you wanted to, you know, an extra gum thing you had left, whatever. There's all kinds of papers they put them on. Okay, sometimes the notes would confuse you. Sometimes they were funny. Sometimes they would tick you off. Sometimes they made you smile. If the spelling teacher saw some of these, we would be in deep doo-doo, though, that's for sure. Okay, let's see. That low-fat milk. How do we spell that? I think it's skim milk, isn't it? Okay, let me see the next one. The next one says, oh, this is what we want. I don't know if that was supposed to be skim milk or. Yeah, neither did I. Okay, then, how do we spell that thing those chickens lay? If your spelling teacher would see this stuff, I'm telling you, right? But then you could put it this way. Would that one work? But then there's another way we could do it. So I think you kind of had to be a mind reader, Corda, you know? No X today. Is that a little Dutch once? I like this one. 2 quarts of eggs and 4 quarts of milk. At least they knew how to spell eggs. I mean, we got to give them that credit for it, don't we? I guess several people had trouble spelling X because I got another one with the AGGS. I don't know. What, were the Pennsylvania Dutch in Pottstown? I don't know. Okay, then you have this one. You tell me what it means.
One orange.
So do you think maybe they meant like 1 milk and 1 orange? Or I wish you would have wrote like on the back of the note what he really left them. And if it was the right thing or not. But anyway, I thought those were really cute. There's a few others here that I didn't actually print because these I think are adorable for you to actually see. There's one here that says, Joe, 1 dozen of eggs, 1 orange drink today, and Saturday, also buttered today. We're going away early this morning, so don't leave anything until Monday. Wait, and didn't they say they wanted butter in it? Oh, whatever. Where's the other one? 2 eggnog, no other milk. The day you always come, the same as before. Well, he's not going to read it if it isn't the day that he comes there. Please do not leave anything until Wednesday. Our refrigerator is on the fritz, and I do not know when it will be fixed. I will put a note in on Wednesday. Dear Mr. Milkman, no milk today. Too much beer and not enough milk over the weekends. Now, what's interesting is this was written on a an old envelope with a 4-cent stamp. And the address is 560 High Street. Aren't you 568? I just happened to see that today because I was flipping through the stuff and I was like, oh yeah, that's that beer one. And then I'm like, oh wait, isn't this near the society?
So what did they order? What did they order?
Well, this is the one that said no milk today. He had too much beer over the weekend. How was that guy?
It might be a gas station today.
Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, I should have looked. I didn't even think about it. All right, let me see. Where am I? 2 quarts of chocolate milk and 1 quart of milk. I guess that means like that regular milk. Some people keep very close tabs on what they owe. Leave 1 quart of milk. Where the hell is my bill? 3 quarts I owe, 2 quarts I want. Joe, there was no bill in the pot on April 12th, 1963. I did not know how much to put in, I'm sorry, let me start this over. There was no bill in the box on April 12th, 1963. I do not know how much money to put in the pot. I did not know whether milk went up or down or sideways. I thought you was sick and somebody else was delivering my milk. Please do not leave any milk or butter Monday or Wednesday. Please leave the usual on Friday. I will be away and I won't need any milk or butter until Friday. Only leave milk on Friday. I think we're just doing Friday. That's what I got. And this is by far one of the sweetest. I just love this. It says, "Dear Mr. Milkman, please leave 2 1-pint bottles of chocolate milk in front of the tent in the backyard." Thank you. I just think that is so adorable. Okay, can we say this is too much information? This is a little confusing. Joe, I have to change my milk ordering. I have to drink skim milk, which they knew how to spell. I just had x-rays for gallbladder. I don't need any this morning, but I will leave a note when I do. I don't need no milk this morning, but skim milk. To Carver's Dairy Incorporated. Gentlemen, I sincerely wish to apologize in this late check. I have been under terrific medical bills, etc., for the last 6 months. I am sorry that Joe had to suffer for my lateness in paying. Tell him he's the best delivery man in the East. Okay, this one I put, my little comment was, gee, I'm sorry. Root Man, 3 a.m. is too early for us to be aroused from a deep sleep. Please go easily handling the milk bottles. Also, please go easy down the steps. Lately, you've been running down the stairs. This one really took a lot of nerve. I buy most of my milk from K-Milk in Boyertown because it's less expensive. I hope you can continue to check in case I need anything. Probably this winter we won't be able to get to Boyertown and we'll again need you. Thank you. Yeah, I think we're going to check in every 3 days a week just to be sure of that. Okay, then we have this little girl that used to write notes and draw pictures all the time. And I'm hoping one of these days I'm at a thing and I read it and not a little girl, but somebody goes, that was me. She says, 1/2 gallon and 1/2 gallon of milk, 1 pound of butter, please. This is for you, Joe. It's a sandbox, a bucket, a shovel, all that kind of good stuff she drew. Then another one here that says, well, this was a Christmas, so she drew a cute little Christmas thing. And she says, 2 1/2 gallons of white milk, 1 pound of butter. Have a Merry Christmas, love, Gail. I'm drawing you a picture on the other side. This one, she said, I'm going to write you a letter and draw you a picture. Are you going trick-or-treating? Do you carry a flashlight to read these little notes? Love, Gail. Over. Do you like to deliver milk and things? Do you ever get a chance to sleep? I couldn't be that because I would fall asleep. P.S. If you were going trick-or-treating, what are you going to be? Love, Gail. That's why I'd love to, someday have somebody go, oh my goodness. Okay, 2.5 gallons of white milk, please. I'm not going to write you a long letter because then it takes your time and you must deliver milk. And if you take the time to read my notes over, you will be late and the people will holler. So don't take the time to read my note till after you're done delivering milk. But I'm very sorry because I did write a long letter, but I didn't want to. Love, Gail. So these are all the treasures. Yeah, she did like, and then the pictures are adorable, except the one for Halloween. She drew like a football with one eye and one mouth, like a monster. But anyway, so those are all the fun things that I found, which I had no idea that my dad was saving them. And I was going through his file after he died. I was like, what the heck are these? Notes? It was really, really cool. There's a picture that I found in one of his slides. I have a million slides. And this was me. When he brought the milk truck home one time because when it was really snowy, he was afraid he couldn't get out with it. So if he brought it home, he could drive it out. And of course, I had to, I was in 1965. So I was 8. And then this was in 1963. And this is, I don't know if these are familiar to anybody, across the street from the Pottstown Hospital. You know those, I don't know if they're like townhouses or what they are. The Pottstown, where the Pottstown Hospital is now in Arm & Hammer. When you go down there on the other, is that what it is? Okay. So he delivered there. He delivered, that I remember. He was going, when I was going down 422 today, towards Sanatoga, and there are all those trailers up on the side there. I don't know. Okay. He delivered there. I definitely remember he delivered there. But he was in, I think, more the lower side of Pottstown. I can't tell you the streets or anything, but if you had a Carver's Dairy milkman, he might have been your milkman if you lived in Pottstown. So that's what I have to share with you folks, and I hope you liked it. I bet that's something you never, ever, ever thought about. The notes that milkman get in the box. I mean, and they write it on everything. Well, years ago, you saved every piece of paper, which I'm the scrap paper queen, I will admit. That's what my daughter calls me. But like address books, that envelope, that gum wrapper, whatever they could find. But yeah, he worked very hard, and so milkman was my dad. And that's my story.
Could we have a hand for Luann?
Thank you, thank you.